All right, YouTube, it's time to talk about Alexandria Ocasio Cortez and her recent comments with Washington Free Beacon. I'm going to go ahead and post the link to the video in the description below. This is only a 3-minute interview, so I'm sure that there's probably more footage that just wasn't included in the actual video. I'm sure there's a full version of the interview somewhere around on YouTube or probably on the Washington Free Beacon's website. But nonetheless, the clip is posted in the description below. I'll go ahead and just give my 2 cents on this because I think it's pretty remarkable what we've just seen. Here we have the new young face of the progressive movement on the left in the Democratic Party. Let's just face it, she's probably the next Barack Obama. This is what they want to, this is kind of, I believe this is the way they want to prop her up, is in the way of her being like, the next minority and the first female president, that kind of deal. Because that's how they're going to market her. That's the same way they marketed Obama, as a change we can believe in. And for some people, they were willing to settle for the change of just having the first black president, and that wasn't really enough. They were just like, okay, that's great change, but let's go ahead and start changing policies now, which they never got around to doing. In fact, they actually, in my opinion, Obama is he did his best to screw things up for us over here in America. Maybe not intentionally, but just in the interest of lining his own pockets and his friends' pockets. Yeah, definitely. But Cortez, she wasn't on point in this interview. She was very, as Anthony Brian Logan put it, Gary Johnson-ish. So she was very not really able to articulate her points well. But that's okay, because the spirit of the comments were well taken, at least from me. Maybe not, and this is actually the very interesting thing. This is where my biggest criticism of the right comes in. You're going to have people like Anthony Brian Logan who are going to, and I'm going to watch this video after this, but I assume that he's going to mock Cortez for being anti-Semitic. I hope not, because I would hate to see people resort to that type of ignorant psychobabble, because that's absolutely incorrect. If you were to criticize the government of Israel and AIPAC, that is not anti-Semitic. Israel was founded by the Khazars. The Khazar people, the Wanderers. In case you're curious, this is very interesting. Khazar in Yiddish means pig, so do with that information what you will. And it's amazing, I don't know. I don't even know if that's a coincidence or if they. Anyways, so going back to the topic at hand with Cortez. Think about the balls that she has on her to talk about Israel in this negative fashion. How dare she? How dare she? I mean, after all, Israel's our greatest ally, aren't they? So how dare she? Well, I have to say I am very happy that she made these comments, because there are literally very few politicians out there that are going to tell the truth about Israel and Palestine, And she's reasonable about it too. She says, I support their right to exist, but I do also support a two-state solution. That's very reasonable. That's very reasonable. Very reasonable. And yet she is going to get all this backlash for being anti-Semitic. That is just so ignorant, guys. I'm sorry. You guys need to brush up on your history if you're going to call someone criticizing the government of Israel anti-Semitic. They're Khazars, folks. They're Turkish. They're not real Jews. They came from the Caucasus. They're not from that region of the world, so they're not technically Semitic. They're not Semitic people. So do your homework, people, before you go around and calling people anti-Semitic, because it's just not the right term, You can call her anti-Semitic, or pardon me, you can call her anti-Zionist. That would actually be the appropriate term to use, but you're not going to use that term, no, because you're going to try and smear this girl. You're going to try and smear her by calling her anti-Semitic, aren't you? Yeah. When you damn know for sure that that's not the right term, and you're just using that as a, part of your hit piece, I guess. And I'm very passionate about this too, because there are no politicians, including Trump himself, that are willing to stand up to Israel. Whether she's going to maintain this viewpoint within her political career or throughout her political career is to be determined, obviously. She's only 28 years old. I'm sure if you dig up some old footage of Obama back in the day, you could probably hear him talking about Israel in a negative light. Probably talking about the Palestinians in a favorable context and not so much the Israelis. Pardon me. So, I'm glad she said these things. I don't care that she was not able to articulate her point well. I don't care if people call her Gary Johnson. Fuck, I don't even agree with most of her policies, but I'm just glad that she said this, honestly. Like, I'm right-leaning, you know, if you folks have watched my channel. You'll know that I'm right-leaning, but I also really appreciate the fact that the Democratic Party, as a registered Democrat, that the Democratic Party is now starting to try and rebrand themselves, which is great, because there are a lot of disgruntled and disenfranchised Democrats that are, you know, walking away. Going back to the, sorry, pardon my French, but it's like, duh, hashtag walk away. This is what's happening. And then they finally start to wake up, and then this chick, Cortez, comes out of nowhere, beats Crowley in the primaries, which is awesome, you know. She's, as the progressives over MSNBC would say, oh, she unseated the old white man. Oh, good for her. Like, that's not the way I look at it, though. I look at it as if, you know, there's young blood coming into the party, which is great. If the Democrats are smart, they'll realize that they need more youth in their party because, well, let's go ahead and just play devil's advocate with the left here. If they're calling them old white men, then, you know, objectively they're right. I mean, even with Feinstein today getting snubbed by the California DNC, you know, it's older white people. Let's just go ahead and objectively agree that that's sometimes the case. It's not a bad thing, though. You know, it's not a bad thing that they're white. But this is a very fun topic for me. I'm really glad that Alexandria Ocasio Cortez was so based today. That's fucking awesome, man. Keep it up, honestly. And shit, if you run for president, I might vote for you, girl. All right, peace.